They always called her just the mechanic, the woman who fixed engines, tightened bolts, and stayed safely on the ground. But the night a military transport helicopter vanished inside a roaring blizzard, along with 12 trapped soldiers, she walked past the stunned pilots, climbed into the cockpit, and said 6 words that changed everything. If no one flies it, I will. Before we begin, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Tales and Turns. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We love seeing our community from all around the world. She had never asked for attention, praise, or even recognition. Everyone on the base knew Maria Khan as the quiet woman with oil on her hands and a wrench in her back pocket. She worked double shifts, humming softly to herself as she rebuilt engines the pilots thought were too far gone. Some respected her, some ignored her, but nearly everyone underestimated her. They didn't know she had spent her entire childhood around aircraft, learning every vibration, every sound, every secret a machine could whisper. But what they really didn't know, what even she hid, was that she had once been a pilot too. Life, tragedy, and responsibility had pulled her out of the sky, until this night forced her back. The alarm siren started just after midnight, slicing through the freezing air like knives. A helicopter on a supply run had been caught in a sudden Arctic blizzard, an angry wall of white swallowing its engines, its radio, its men. 12 soldiers were on board, including a young medic who had joined only 2 weeks earlier. The base scrambled as commanding officers yelled orders and pilots ran to their aircraft, only to watch in horror as the storm intensified. Winds slammed against the hangars. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The blizzard was so violent that even the senior pilots refused to take off, calling it suicide. The commander shouted for alternatives, but every voice in the room echoed the same answer. No chopper can survive that. Maria had been in the corner of the hangar, tightening the bolts on a grounded helicopter when she overheard the chaos. She wiped her hands on a rag, listening as desperation filled the air. She watched the commander slam his fist against a table, shouting that those soldiers had maybe an hour before the icy winds claimed them. Maria felt her chest tighten. She remembered the storm that had taken her brother years ago. How she had been helpless then. She wasn't helpless now. Her feet moved before her mind caught up, walking toward the stunned circle of pilots who were arguing over possibilities. When she reached them, her voice was steady, quiet, unwavering. "The Blizzard Hawk is ready," she said. "I tuned it myself, reinforced the intake, strengthened the blades. It can push through that storm." The pilots stared at her as if she'd lost her mind. The commander frowned. "Maria, even if it's ready, no one here can fly in conditions like that." The hangar went silent. Maria's heartbeat thumped against her ribs, loud enough she wondered if they heard it. She looked him straight in the eye. "I can." Gasps rippled through the room. Some laughed nervously. Some shook their heads. One pilot stepped forward, irritation sharp in his voice. You're the mechanic, not the pilot." She didn't flinch. "I was a pilot," she replied softly, "before I promised my family I'd never fly again." The commander stared at her, searching for any sign of doubt. There was none. She walked toward the Blizzard Hawk, the aircraft she had rebuilt bolt by bolt, and climbed into the cockpit with the confidence of someone born to be there. The storm hit the helicopter the moment she lifted off. Winds punched the sides. Ice formed on the windshield in seconds. The Blizzard Hawk shook like it wanted to tear itself apart. But Maria's hands were steady on the controls, navigating through zero visibility, trusting the machine she had rebuilt from its skeleton. She whispered to it like an old friend. "Hold together. Come on, we're not losing them." The radio crackled with static. Then, weak, terrified, a voice came through. "This is Bravo Unit. We're losing power. Freezing, please." Maria's throat tightened, but her voice stayed calm. "Hold on, I'm coming for you. Just keep talking." She followed the sound, threading her way through the storm like sliding a needle through a shaking thread. When she finally spotted the downed chopper, her breath caught. It lay half, buried in snow, tilted dangerously on its side. Shapes moved weakly around it, soldiers waving, stumbling, one collapsing. Maria didn't have time to think. She swung the Blizzard Hawk around and executed a landing so precise even the base's top pilot couldn't have done it under perfect weather, let alone in a deadly storm. The moment she hit the ground, she jumped out, snow whipping into her eyes. The soldiers stared at her in shock. One of them, barely more than a boy, asked, "You came alone?" She smiled, breathless. Didn't have time to wait for someone else. She helped them into the aircraft, checking for injuries, lifting those who couldn't stand. Her hands moved quickly, but her mind was sharp, calculating how long before the blizzard worsened. The young medic grabbed her sleeve. His lips were blue. "We thought we were done," he whispered. Maria placed a hand on his shoulder. "Not tonight." When the last soldier was aboard, she rushed back to the cockpit, heart pounding. This was the hardest part, getting them out alive. The storm roared like a living creature, trying to swallow them whole. The Blizzard Hawk struggled as it rose, the wind clawing at its sides. Warning lights flashed angrily. Maria pushed the engine to its limit, her teeth clenched. For a terrifying moment, the helicopter dropped, falling, until she yanked the throttle and felt the machine surge upward, growling in defiance. The soldiers in the back held onto each other, praying under their breaths. Maria kept her eyes forward, refusing to blink. She thought of her brother, of the promise she broke, of the 12 souls depending on her now. Just a little more. She murmured through gritted teeth, "Come on, girl, fight with me." And the Blizzard Hawk obeyed. When she burst through the storm's edge, the clouds split open like a curtain, revealing the faint outline of the base. The radio exploded with cheers and disbelief. As she touched down, medics rushed forward to carry the soldiers out, some crying, some laughing, all alive because of her. The commander stood frozen for a moment before approaching her slowly. Maria climbed out of the helicopter, exhausted, shaking, covered in frost, but alive. The commander looked at her, voice thick with emotion. You saved 12 men tonight. You're not just the mechanic. You're the reason they're going home." Maria didn't answer right away. She watched the soldiers being treated, watched life return to their faces. A warmth spread through her chest. Not pride, not glory, but something deeper. She finally looked up, her voice soft. "I just did what needed to be done." But everyone on that base knew the truth. She had done the impossible. And from that night on, no one ever looked at Maria the same way again. Because heroes aren't always the ones wearing medals. Sometimes they're the quiet ones with grease on their hands, who choose to fly into storms to bring others home.